Hey, everybody, and welcome back to our Creator Spotlight. I'm Mark Spencer. I'm here with my good buddy Steve. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great, Mark. It is good to be here for another episode of Creator Spotlight.
Yes, this is something we started new this year. This is our third episode. We've talked to Chris Hawking, and we've talked to Chris Fenwick, two Chris's. And if you check on our YouTube channel, you can see those interviews. They're fascinating. They're really great and fun to do. And today we have a new guest that Steve will introduce in a minute. I just want to let you guys know the purpose of doing this live is so that you can get any questions answered about the guest, anything they bring up, Final Cut Pro, Motion, kind of all these related topics. So feel free to post your questions down in the chat there. If we'll try to get to as many as possible. If you have any kind of burning questions or you want to make a contribution to the show, you can do a super chat and contribute a nominal amount, and that will make your question pop to the top, and we'll do our best to get to that, and we'll try to get to all of them. So with that, I will turn it to Steve to introduce today's special guest.
Yeah, I'm super excited for our guest, Jenn Jager. I became familiar with her work a couple of years ago. I was on Facebook or YouTube, and someone directed me to her channel, and I'm like, wow, this is really great. She has some really great graphics chops, and she does a lot of marketing. She has a YouTube channel where she, helps small businesses learn how to use these tools like Final Cut and Motion to grow their business and to grow their YouTube channel. And so I also got familiar with her through the Final Cut Pro community. She posts a lot on Facebook, and we just kind of got to know each other over vis-a-vis this social media. And so I thought it'd be great to have her on because she knows how to make it work. She runs a small business in South Florida in Boca Raton called Plum Productions. I'm going to bring up her site really quick here. So she and her team, I think she's a small team of 6 employees, and for such a small team, they sure do put out a lot of work. And so they do clients from all over the world. You check out their website, Plum Productions, and there you have it. But recently, Apple had featured her on their workflow page. So there's her and her team. And you want to check out this page here. It's apple.com/Final Cut Pro/workflows. And you'll see her team there and a nice little write-up of her business and her YouTube channel. So that's my little bit of my introduction to Jenn. So I'm super excited to bring her on so we can ask her questions and she can tell us how she uses her tools and how she has built a successful company using these tools. So welcome, Jenn Jager.
Hey, welcome, Jenn.
Hey, everybody. Hi, guys.
Welcome
Jenn from
to
Florida. So you're in Florida,
Thank you.
I'm in San Francisco, and Steve's in Arizona. So we're kind of spanning the United States here. Great to have you on the show, Jenn. And Jenn and I have done a couple of things together too. I've been on your channel and you've been on our channel before. We've done some stuff together because Jenn's a big motion person, and I always get excited when I find people who are really into motion.
I love motion. And we had a little, you should check it out on my channel. Mark and I did a little head-to-head behaviors challenge, I like to call it, in Apple Motion. It was a little bit fun, all in good fun, not very competitive, more of an exposition instead of a competition, I like to say, but it was great.
And getting to teach people more about what you can do with motion, which is great. So I'm gonna let Steve kind of drive the Q&A. I just want to remind people to please post your questions here. I'm sort of doing the show running here in terms of the angles and getting your questions up on the screen and getting them answered. So I'm going to pretty much try to focus on that and participate as much as I can at the same time. So you take it away, Steve.
So I thought a good kind of a softball question right off is like, how you got started in video production? And we'll get to the YouTube channel in a moment, but what kind of drew you to the creative arts, creative media arts?
I mean, that's a great question. I always, as a kid, was very creative. I was always writing stories. I was always drawing and illustrating, painting. And so I pursued a degree in communication in college with a concentration in video production up in New England. And really at that time, I mean, I'm very old. So at that time, it was before YouTube. It was before online video was even a thing. And I worked in broadcasting for a fair number of years. And it really was just purely coincidental that I picked a field where there was such a growth opportunity. So I consider myself really lucky. I wish I could take credit and say, oh, I knew that this was going to be such a huge and hot field, but I really had no idea. I thought I would work in broadcasting forever, but that's not the case, obviously.
So did you decide at one point, I'm just going to start a video production company and then just go pursue clients? Is that how you approached it?
Sort of. So I worked in broadcasting for, a few jobs, and it took me a few jobs to realize that I did not like the grind of that. I actually worked in for local stations, which meant a lot of times working in local news. And it was the kind of thing where it felt like a factory. Like I was a promotion producer, which means that I wasn't like a reporter or a news producer. I would be making ads to promote the station for which I worked. And a lot of those ads would run, once or twice a day. And then I'd get up the next day and just do it all over again. It was like being a mailman, and it was unsatisfying. So I ended up working for another production company for 7 years, and they did a very specific type of corporate video. And I felt after, a fair amount of years, 7-year itch, I guess you could say, I was like, I just want to do something different. And I feel like I could do my own business, which I was very naive because I thought like, I can do that. What's so hard? But really getting clients, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you asked about that. That is really the biggest challenge when you're starting new. And so I ended up doing a little bit of overlap. I was working like a double agent. I had my regular job, but I had started this other company on the side. And I didn't want my boss to know that I had started another business. It wasn't really competing, but, I just didn't want him to think I was distracted. And then over time, I just got little piddly clients. And then finally, I just came clean to him. And I was like, listen, I've just been doing some side work and I think I want to pursue it full time. And he kindly flooded me with freelance work after I left there, which kind of sustained me until I could make the crossover.
Well, that's a fantastic story. It's so funny because that was somewhat my trajectory. I worked for an advertising agency, Saatchi & Saatchi, which was like really big ad agency. And I'd work in these big rooms and out cutting 30-second spots. And I was like you, I was just getting bored with it. The same type of work every day, cutting running footage of like Toyota cars on roads or whatever. And then at night, I would go home and I think I got Adobe Premiere and I got this little piece of hardware, a Mac, and I started doing things on the side. And that's kind of spurred my interest. It was right at the beginning of the desktop video revolution before, we were actually cutting video on a computer. But I thought it was so exciting because we were using these big switchers and like we had these decks, like we had almost like 1-inch Sony videotape and these big decks and switchers. And the fact that you could bring it all into a computer was exciting to me. So I felt like like you said, the ground floor of something. And things really changed in 1990. I think it was 99 when Final Cut Pro came out, and the third generation, it was the G3 Mac. It was the green one, and you could connect a camera to it. There was Sony VX1000, if you recall that camera, and you were able to do this stuff at home, and that was it for me. And then I was so excited. So it sounds like it was very similar to kind of what you experienced.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to start a production company, not even that long ago, you needed like $100,000 just to start it. And the barrier to entry has gotten so much lower. Plus for me physically, I know we haven't met in person yet, but I'm very petite. And so like those huge old like beta cams, I mean, I would never have been able to hoist one of those around all day. So it kind of was at the right time where I was able to, edit at home, and the cameras had gotten smaller. The lighting had come down, not as much as it has now, but it had come down some in price. And so it just made it more attainable, for someone like me.
Well, the thing that you did that we all did, and I think for people out there who are thinking about getting into this, I mean, we all were doing something else for income while we slowly built this up on the side. And we all did it in different ways. I was in the software business, but I was on the side. I was scouring the forums and bought a little camera and just doing stuff. And then slowly, very much like you, sort of built things up and kind of went to my boss and said, listen, I think I want to do this now. And sort of transitioned over years into doing this full time. So that's, it's sort of a safe way to step into it instead of like, I'm going to this full time, I'm going to pitch my job and I got to make this much money in the next month. It's a risky business to do it in.
I totally agree. And I remember when I had started the company, so I was like having to file taxes, and I had this expensive accountant. And when he gave me the bill like we were in person, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is felt like a lot of money. And he kind of yelled at me. He was like, "You have the dream situation. You're starting a business while you have a full time job. That's so lucky. Like, just stop being a baby." And I really just needed to hear it. I needed to hear it. Sometimes you just need that tough love.
Right. So
Hey,
let's
we
talk a
actually,
bit about, yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry,
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we got a question came in, so I just thought I'd bring it up here from Peter
Sure.
Downing. When you work with a new client using their design standards, do you create individual motion effect collections for each client, separate from purchase and stock effects?
That is a great question. It really just depends on the client. Some of the clients we work with have a very robust brand standard. They will send me this PDF packet with all of their colors and all of their fonts and the weights. And, you have to have this much distance around the logo if it's in the corner of the screen. And they're very specific. And I find that those bigger clients, if I try to do anything fun with their logo, they're like, no, 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 that's against our brand standard. We just want a static logo. Sometimes the smaller clients can be more fun because they may have, they kind of have more of a disparate sort of branding where maybe one person, created their logo and then someone else did the website, and those two people never even talk to each other. And they're really not as rigid with their branding. And so I love taking that from scratch and making something happen with it. If I'm in a situation where I'm going for speed, a lot of times I will take a pre-existing template and I will modify it as I see fit, like the way I want to as a creative, or something that will fit their brand. So a lot of times, sometimes it's from scratch, and sometimes it's kind of a combination of efforts between an existing product and my own imagination.
Awesome. Are we still here, Mark?
I
It sounds like,
I've got a
okay.
few technical things going on, but we're all good.
Okay, good.
Well, so let's talk about your kind of overall business philosophy. And we talked a little bit about it yesterday, Jen. We're we're kind of like, I know I am a kind of a gearhead. I want to buy the next camera. I want to buy lenses. I want to buy, oh, look, the shiny new thing. I want to buy that. And we talked about the importance of like putting business first. Like you need to be, the business has to be above
Yes.
everything else, right? And that's how you build your company. Is like you don't buy something and, well, I'll just let you talk about that. So.
Well, sure. I mean, I feel like you can really go broke pretty quickly. As much as the price of gear has come down, you can spend a lot of money on things you don't need, or even if you just need it for one project for one specific client. So we're conservative with our spending, I would say. We definitely want all the tools that we need to get a job done. But if there's like a very specific lens we need for something, a very specific project, I just rent it. And, we actually are having a new camera delivered today, which everyone in the office is very excited about. But, those purchases, we really are thoughtful of them. And I'm not I think a lot of people like buy something and then think if I don't use it, I could just resell it. But you're always reselling it at a loss. And I am always thinking about every dollar that goes out the door, because I'm not just supporting myself. Like my husband and I run the business together. So we're obviously, for our own household, we have to be thoughtful about what we spend. But then like once you start getting a team, you feel responsible for them. And so I'm really just like mindful of everything I spend my money on. And that is one of the reasons I love Final Cut, is because it's not a rental product. It's something that you purchase one time and it comes with the updates, and it's such a good value. And so that's one of the reasons that we've been a Final Cut house, and we, will continue to be as long as that model doesn't change.
So speaking of Final Cut,
sorry.
Go ahead, Mark.
I just wondered what the camera was that's coming today.
It's a Sony FX6. We have all Sony cameras. Yes. So.
Yeah, the website, the Apple article made it clear that it's all Sony cameras that you're using.
Yeah. Yeah. We just, it's like once you get started on one, all your lenses fit that E-mount or whatever. Yeah. That's kind of just what we've been sticking with. And so we can match the cameras, and it's just been good for us. Sony's been good to us.
We have another viewer question here. This comes from Dan Svoboda. Hey, Dan. Sorry,
Dan.
I mangled
Dan.
your last name. What's the typical turnaround time for some of your client work?
That's a great question. I find that the advantage that we've been having in our local market anyway is our turnaround times are fast because, we hear from from clients who've worked with other production houses. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, we didn't see anything for 6 weeks. And I don't operate that way. I feel like if I know I have a schedule, on April 30th, why can't I schedule the edit to start May 1st? So we schedule all of our stuff out right away. So we have really fast turnaround times. And, our clients, some of them really appreciate it because they know that that's not always the case, for, when they work with creative agencies. And some people don't know how good they have it. But I like to just stay on top of things. I hate for things to get, out of hand and feel like work starts piling up. I want to turn it and burn it, get it done, and move on to the next project always.
So in terms of your the tools, I wanted to ask you. So you've kind of firmly put the stake in the ground. We're a Final Cut, we're Motion. That's what we're using. Did you find that that decision was reliant upon like how easy it was to bring onboard new employees, or was there another reason why you chose it?
No, I chose it because I used to edit. In my past, I've edited on Avid. I never really was a big Premiere user, to be honest. I dabbled in it between the gap between Final Cut 7 and Final Cut 10. But I ended up, clinging to Final Cut 7 until it just wouldn't work anymore. And finally, I just took like a course on Lynda. This was ages ago before I had any employees or, and I was really just by myself. And I finally just took a course on how to use Final Cut 10. And then I loved it right away. So the decision, I guess was made a long time ago. And it's just something I like. I actually wish that I could find more applicants who were skilled in Final Cut. I know, with the new certifications, I'm hoping that kind of broadens maybe different colleges like outlook on using Final Cut, and they get their students prepared for it. If I had a resume that came in and that person was certified for Final Cut, like they would jump to the top of the pile. Otherwise, I have our employees, they're a little a younger group. Some of them have learned both Premiere and Final Cut in college. And anyone that we bring in here, I'm like, listen, you're going to be primarily working on Final Cut, and I'm willing for you to pay to learn. So we teach people on the job, but I would love to see more people Final Cut ready, right from the gate.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to just kind of maybe switch gears unless there's a question related to what she's saying, though. So let's talk a little bit about your YouTube channel. Okay, so you're running your business, you're getting clients, you're moving along, and then at some point you said, I think I need to start a YouTube channel. And let's talk a little bit about that and kind of the trajectory you're on and what you learned about building a viewer base, subscription base, and what was different about that versus what you're doing with your client work.
That's good. I would say I started the YouTube thing because I was like, I personally, this is a hot take, but as a business owner, I think most social media is a grand waste of time. You're just spitting out content just to spit it out. And I thought, well, I do video. What could I do that would be different? And, YouTube technically is a social media platform. It's also super searchable. And I thought, why don't I just start this whole YouTube thing? I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I've learned a lot. And I really thought that the YouTube audience would be like my local community and like, you need help with some video stuff. Oh, I have a video that can explain it. And I guess what I thought the way I thought it was going to go is, hey, here's how to make your own video. Like my YouTube videos would explain how to make your own video. And people would be like, this is hard and it looks like crap. I might as well just hire you to do it for me, because that often happens. I'm sure you guys run into that. But instead, I just started to see, it's a long story, but I started to see some growth, especially during the pandemic. And that's really when I kind of like my main channel really just took off. And it's been a great experience. And then I did a couple on my main channel, which is a much broader focus. I do product reviews. I talk about video marketing. It's very kind of like hodgepodge. I did do some Final Cut and Motion tutorials. And I felt like the audience for those tutorials was very different from the audience that I had going on in my main channel. So I broke off and started the second channel, which is called Jenn Jager Pro Tutorials. And that is very niche. It's all about Final Cut and Apple Motion. And I feel like that channel is so much more of a community of people. I'm sure you guys see that too. You just see the same subscribers, the same people over and over in a good way. Like you're really getting feedback from them. They're appreciative. And I actually like kind of the smaller channel, the Jenn Jager Pro Tutorials channel only has about 16,000 subscribers, but I love that. I love that subscriber base. They're very near and dear to my heart.
So you mentioned on one of your videos, in particular, I think a lot of people are doing YouTube videos would want to hear this. Like the focus should be like, where should you focus? Should be niche or wide? How wide and net should you cast in terms of your channel? Because like you said, those channels that take off are very, very specific. Like what we do on our channel is very specific.
Yeah. And by the way, I just want to shout out, I know you guys are literally teetering on the edge of 100,000 subscribers. If you have not subscribed to Ripple Training, can you please get these people their silver play buttons for the love of God? Just hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything.
Well, it's fun. It's funny. I was like, you were saying in one of your videos that you think you did the math. It's like 0.6% of all YouTube channels hit 100,000. So it is like a huge milestone. We've been working at it for almost 7 years. That's how, and it's like the commitment level to do it. It's just it's like, and I don't know if it's a huge commitment.
And we're two people. Like, I know you have a team, but like, a lot of people do it by themselves, and like Steve and I can lean on each other because one will be like, I'm burnt, or I'm in the middle of putting a big. Steve was just working on a huge tutorial that was like hours and hours long, and I was working on one before that that's like, I can't put any content out this week, but we could balance off of each other to get something out, because every week we try to get at least one or more pieces of content out. You just have to keep it going the whole time.
It's actually kind of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank Jonathan for subscribing. He just got us one step closer. And just while we're there, I had Greg Ball mentioned that he's a fellow South Florida production company that are Final Cut Pro 10 company. Thanks for representing Love Your Tutorials. There you go.
I love hearing that. Yes, I really want this community to grow. I think there's an opportunity there. I'll say that. I think there's a big opportunity for all of us.
Yeah. So back to the niche. Let's talk about that, because I think the audience would be interested in hear about your approach to how you would start a channel and how you get maintain subscribers, etc.
Yeah. Well, I will say that the whole niche thing, what I've been reading lately, and if you want to be on YouTube, you have to keep up with this stuff, is people are saying maybe the algorithm has shifted and maybe that hyper focus isn't as important. I'm a little bit taking that with a grain of salt at this point, but we'll see. I think it's really just about, I have a very search focused strategy on my channel, on both of my well, now on the bigger one, I would say more of a search strategy. So I use a tool. It's a Chrome extension called TubeBuddy, and I'm sure you guys have it too. But basically what it does is it gives you insights about what people are searching for. And you can also search this stuff on Google Trends, or there's sites like Answer the Public where you can see what the search trends are. But TubeBuddy is specific for YouTube. And so I don't even make a video now unless TubeBuddy indicates to me that there's an appetite for it. And that was a mistake I made at the beginning, which was I would just make content based on like what I thought I wanted to talk about. And in fact, I really needed to be more educated and mindful about what the world out there wanted. Now with my Final Cut tutorials on the smaller channel, I feel as though I've built kind of like this trust with my community. So when I post a video, a lot of them will click on it and I don't have to focus so much on search. But on the main channel, I have definitely focused on search. And so maybe a video like at the beginning doesn't really like take off, and I don't really care because I know over time it's going to get found in organic search results, not just on YouTube, but also on Google. And that has really helped me grow. The pandemic, I had this one video that was literally how to post a YouTube video, and that thing has taken off. It's got millions of views. That's the one that's really been the huge driver on that main channel. And when I first posted it for months and months and months, it was like a flat line, like nobody watched it. And then for whatever reason, it just started getting suggested to people. And I think obviously in the pandemic that, it makes sense that that's something that people would be really interested in. And so that's how I kind of took off. But if you're new and you're just starting out, you got to keep cranking out the content and wait for something to hit. And once you get that one big video, it makes it a lot easier to keep growing.
Hey, I just want to add it in terms of your TubeBuddy thing, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You go to ChatGPT and say, tell me what people are, and it like ChatGPT 4 only goes up to 2021, but it doesn't really matter. You can say, tell me, kind of what topics people are looking for on Final Cut or on Motion or whatever, like what kind of things people are interested in. And you can use that as a way to really bubble up some really interesting ideas and get you thinking about things in a different way. So I highly recommend checking that out.
That's great, actually. And I just today got approved to be on Google Bard. So I haven't played around with it too much, but I would imagine, and I think Bard is more current, plus it's Google. So that's a good tip. I think I will try that.
You can do Bing also because they have their browser, the Microsoft browser is called Edge. You get the dev version of Edge, and Bing is based on its way to get ChatGPT 4 for free. So you can get it through that as well.
Mark has really gone like deep dive into AI. I mean, it's so funny. He's always sending me pictures and I say, look what AI is doing here. Look what AI is doing there. It's like, dude, you've gone down the AI rabbit hole. No, it's kind of fun to watch him. He's like, he's fun.
Well, I'm like, here's what's cool about it. And here's what's really, really, really scary about it.
Yeah. I don't know though. I don't think it's anytime soon replacing real people yet. I know that people are really afraid of it, but I just look back to things that people were afraid of in the past, when I was a kid that people would talk about, and they're things we do not worry about today. So I'm hoping that this whole AI thing will fall into that category.
I don't know. In 5 years, ChatGPT will become self-aware, just like, anyway, it is interesting. It's an interesting time. I'm excited about. I want to see more AI tools built into Final Cut and Motion. I'm always talking about it. I want to see more AI tools, not less. I just keep harping this drum. We should be seeing this, and this inside Final Cut in terms of these tools. And this is where I feel like Apple is really like behind, let's say like Blackmagic in putting these tools in there. And I just think this where we all want to see faster, more frequent updates in this regard. Because Apple has, they've got a lot of the same engineers that Google has, or Facebook or whoever. And let's see those tools migrate into these apps that we're using.
Yeah, if you want to see an editor that's rapidly building all this in, look at Runway. Just look up Runway.
I'm familiar with Runway.
Yeah. Just look up Runway. It's there's a lot of big changes happening. It's amazing, absolutely amazing.
So I thought we'd take maybe a slight digression, although it is all related. And I think maybe some folks would be interested in seeing, maybe a project or something you want to show how you use Final Cut. What kind of I honestly have no idea what you want to show, but I'm assuming it's related to Final Cut Motion. But I think I know I'd be interested in kind of seeing how you're using these tools in your day-to-day in the trenches work.
Sure. I mean, you want to see how the sausage is made, do you? So I can show you literally the video I'm editing that's going to post next week on the Final Cut channel. All right. So here is my timeline. And you can almost see here. Well, I'll just kind of walk through my process if anyone's curious. You can see how many cuts I have, from, me talking. So like I record myself with the camera and then I do a screen recording here. And basically what I do is I cut out every little gap and mistake, because I find that like no one wants to hear me breathing while I'm working. You really just want to keep things super tight. So I am this video was originally, I think, 36 minutes long, the actual recording, and the finished video is 10 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's a lot
all
of
the
work
ums
to
and
cut these
ahs
out.
and the repeating a sentence because you didn't say it
Okay.
quite right. And
Well, it's interesting here. So it sounds like you have a rough idea what you say, but it's not like tightly scripted. So you're actually doing the
No.
writing. You're doing the writing in the edit room.
Yes. Well, I can actually show you. Do I have it here? For
Final
instance.
Cut. Did a Final Cut? Oh, I'm sorry. On my screen, Final Cut actually quit while we're talking. Sorry.
Oh no. Oh, that would be
Go
no
ahead,
quitting
go
here.
ahead.
This is a tutorial from Motion. So I'm showing you how to do something here in Motion. I'm actually doing like a knockoff version of the Motype 2 titles that FX Factory came out with that I'm in love with. So I'm like, well, let me just show you how to do this one style of them as a little bit of a knockoff. So what I do is I design it in Motion, just kind of playing around. And then I start again from the beginning. And this time I'll like go through the steps again. And I like write all like my values and stuff on a piece of paper. I type it out so that I can have it handy to reference. Like, okay, the scale on this is going to be 89. The position on this is going to be this and that. So I keep this handy. And then I'm literally just talking and working. And then sometimes like I'll break and I'll like turn to the camera and talk. And then those are the parts you'll see here in my timeline where I'm like on camera. And then the rest is just the screen share. And the other little secret I'm going to show you guys is that a lot of these clips are retimed because they're like when I'm cutting out the gaps in, my speaking, I want to compress that action that I'm doing on the screen into a certain amount of time.
Right.
So I'm like speeding things up, and it's, this is really how the sausage is made. And then once I get like down to what I want the content to be, so I've got my timeline down, I know it's 10 minutes and 30 seconds. I start going in, and what I have are I've created these effects presets for especially these motion tutorials where I literally have like pre-existing keyframed moves. So like this one here. Oh, and I have this little marker where I misspoke and I have to go back and re-record my voice, which is so annoying. I don't know if that happens to you guys ever.
Never.
Absolutely.
Never. So this effect here, you can see it's called Project Pane to Behaviors. And I'll just drag and drop. Usually I just double click, but it just goes from the Project Pane and then over to the behaviors. And it just makes editing so fast because I took the time to do these moves, very long time ago. And now I can zoom around the screen and it's framing exactly how I have my Motion UI, set up, and everything's like positioned perfectly. So it really makes editing super fast when I'm doing these types of tutorials. So that is a little behind the scenes look.
What project resolution are you working in?
4K on both the Motion screen record and my actual edit.
Then
Steve, we need to give her punch-ins.
Okay. Yeah, totally. Yeah, we do. Mark developed these this plugin you have to play with. It's called punch-ins. It's just hard to say how much time it would save. You literally put it over your clip as a title, and then you can decide where on the screen and how much zoom you want. It's okay. We got to get them to you. Yeah, but it's interesting.
An adjustment layer. Go ahead.
I love titles that work like that. Titles are my favorite way to work in Final Cut always.
So, are you outputting in 1080 for your YouTube channel?
No, I'm doing everything 4K as an MP4 file up to YouTube.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just curious, but that's great having all those presets you just drop on there. It's so funny because Mark and I both use ScreenFlow for all of our tutorials. We capture with ScreenFlow, and I edit in ScreenFlow because they have their own version of behaviors. You drop on this little thing, it zooms in. You drop on another thing, it zooms out. You can tell it where it's really great. And then yesterday, I'm editing a tutorial, an iPad tutorial, and I'm like, I haven't cut it in the Final Cut. I'm going to try cutting it in Final. It's been a good 2 years that I've actually edited a tutorial in Final Cut just because I wanted to try it. And like, oh yeah, this is just as fast. In fact, in a lot of ways faster just because of the way because of the magnetic timeline. It just so I'm like, maybe I need to just do these straight away in Final Cut just because of the magnetic timeline. So now I'm like weighing out whether I even want to use ScreenFlow for the next one because I'm really fast using Final Cut for this stuff.
That's funny because I do a little mix of what you do, Steve, because I do all the initial recording in ScreenFlow and I edit all my voiceover in ScreenFlow just because I'm fast at it. But I do all the moves in Final Cut because I use RT punch-ins, and it has a little interface. So you just drag on the window. So I want to zoom from here to here. And the time it takes is you just drop it on, and then it gives a little push in and push out. And then you can add another one that'll pan over. So while you're pushed in, like, I want to push in on this part of the interface, but then I want to pan over because a window popped up instead of pulling out and then pushing in again. And then it'll perfectly pull out from that new location. And I'm so used to that process now, like super fast on cutting that particular. It's like we get really good at a very particular kind of editing, and then you're throwing something different. It's like, okay, wait a minute, I got to rethink everything.
It's this like muscle memory. It's like becomes an extension of you. You know what I mean? You don't even have to think about what you're doing with your hands. It's more just like, it almost feels like you're just doing it with your brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Richard Auerbach, who says, I've been doing a weekly video since the pandemic started. I'm on episode 161. Congratulations, man. My biggest time consumer is music. What would you suggest to make this easier? It's a really interesting question.
So I have stopped using music on most of my Final Cut tutorials, unless I'm just trying to show something in high speed that I don't need to talk through and it feels very empty. For music, I guess I would need to know, like, is it a challenge of finding music cuts, or is it editing them to fit the length of the video, or...
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, like finding the right music for something. I just had to do this. I'm producing a series of social video pieces for a client, and finding the right music is really hard. And when Steve and I work together on things, we do our promo videos and stuff. Steve always drives the music because he's really good at finding stuff really fast. Like Steve is the audio guy. Like he knows, he can tell if audio is well mixed, if the quality's good. I'm always a little bit off. But with music, he's able to go straight to somewhere to go and identify something. The thing we found yesterday, I use Premium Beat a lot because it's like for $50 you get a track and you get all the pieces, you get all the stems, you get all the 30-second and a 15-second, and usually we still have to cut it. If you listen to the beat and cut to the beat and sort of trim a bar out here or there. But I find Premium Beat works really well for me. But when I have a client to work with, and they want to do music, I have to I build an extra budget because I just know it has to be something that's right. It really has to be the right thing. And what you think is right might not be what the client wants. And it can end up, you can just spend hours previewing and trying different music tracks out.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree with that. It's sometimes, and very rarely, but if you have a real picky client, I've gotten to the point where we subscribe to a couple different music libraries. So I've gotten pretty good at navigating those. And I would say that anytime I hear a good cut of music, even if it's not for this right project, I'll download it and put it away somewhere. So I have like a folder where I have like my favorite music cuts for any like situation. But when you have a client that's just so difficult, sometimes what I do is I send them the link to the whole library. I'm like, we subscribe to this. Any cut in here you want is fine. And once they see how time consuming it can be to find a perfect cut of music, sometimes they back off a little bit. That's a little trick I like to play if it comes to that.
By the way,
Mark,
yeah,
you're kind of frozen in cyberspace.
I know. I see the messages, so I'm not really cutting to me. I think it has to do with the 3-up display. I don't know if I go up to I'm frozen there too. I don't know what's going on, but you can hear me, and I'll just stay away from me. Although we need to go. I don't have a 2-up for just you and Jen, so you guys just ignore me. I can see I just touched my nose there. That was several minutes ago. I think it'll speed up. Love, this is going live. Hey, by the way, I posted a link to RT Punch-Ins because a couple people asked about it there. Richard Auerbach said that he's just playing with Audio Design Desk. And Audio Design Desk is amazing. I'm really glad you brought that up, especially for spotting sound effects to video. I would definitely recommend checking that out. Terry88 Carrera says we subscribe to Atomica Music. And then Steve, do you have any other, Sigrid was asking, do you have any other favorite music sources? Or Jen, do you have other favorite music sources?
I mean, we use Soundstripe, which I like because I find that the sorting features on Soundstripe are great. You can sort by beats per minute. They have like collections from like whoever manages their site, where it'll be like cooking music and this and that, and they update them all the time. So if I'm really in a time crunch, I'll just jump to one of those collections and just listen to what the editors have picked. And then I also have Artlist as well, which has some really great cuts.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Premium Beat. I use them. I find their tracks are a little on the pricey side. I like AudioJungle.net. I use them. And it's so funny. Sometimes I'll just sit at night, and if I have a space of time, I'll just go to different sites and search and listen to different types of music. And like you, I'll find a piece of music that resonates with me. It's like, I'm going to flag that. I may not use it now, but I like that piece of music, and I save it, and then and I'll come back to it. So I have like these different music libraries, and I have tons of music, what I call favorited. They're sitting in some sort of a receptacle for, I can go back and look at them later. So Mark, your head is doing some really strange things in that window. You look like an 80s Max Headroom. Max Headroom.
It's an AI avatar. It's not really me.
Yeah,
I'm off having my lunch. So that's why I got a single on you now. So because you guys seem like you're doing great. And I just, by the way, I tested I'm on a hardwired internet connection that is 1 gigabit per second up and down, and I just tested it. So I've got lots of bandwidth, but there's something else going on here. But we're good. Let's proceed. Oh, hey, Steve, you want to mention you've got a code on your screen there. What's that about? Other side.
Oh,
there,
yeah,
other side. Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, there
this
you go.
Code right here. That
yeah,
one.
That one.
That code. Yeah. So yeah, we're having a spring sale because in the spring it's supposed to be sunny, and it's sunny-35 for 35% off, and you can get our tutorials and our plugins. The aforementioned Ripple punch-ins you can get right now for 35% off. It's really good because it's already $29. So I think that's what 40. I don't remember what it is.
It's just too cheap. It's just too cheap.
Yeah. You should get RT punch-ins. It's great. We're gonna get Jenn set up with the RT punch-ins, and she's gonna, I know she likes her method, but she's gonna love these. So,
I can't wait to try it.
Dan jumped in here to say that he likes to edit my watermark track in a compound clip. It helps when the real track doesn't match the temp track in terms of length. Yeah, you can just swap it right out. There's a bunch of, we actually have several tutorials on ways to work with watermark music and make it very easy to swap out with the final music if you've cut it all up. That works perfectly, so you don't have to recut the music.
Yeah, so a lot of good music libraries out there, and there's also, I like to use Logic and even GarageBand to make some atmospheric music, because you have those keyboards that you can just like press the A key, and it just kind of arpeggiates or whatever, and it's kind of fun.
There's several new AI sites. I'm going to try bringing myself back, see if it works at all. Nope, I'm still way in the past. But there's several AI sites now that will generate music also, just by the way. It's crazy.
Of course you would know what those were.
So do you Steve, have other questions for Jenn? I'm really interested about, I know Jenn, you hit 100,000 last year. When did you hit 100,000?
I think it was 2021.
Oh, so, okay. It was a couple years ago. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been probably, maybe like a year and a half. That was kind of an exciting moment, but I've never been recognized in public, so nothing's changed. Still me. Have you guys ever been recognized in public? Like, it's never happened.
I have, yeah.
Ever. Yeah, you have.
I was out walking. I was out walking the dog in our neighborhood. I used to live in Mill Valley, way up in the hills. And some guys were up there. They had flown a drone in the hills and the woods and lost the drone. They're looking for it. And they stopped by. They were driving by us because we were walking the dog to ask for like direction. And the guy was like, "Hey, are you Mark Spencer?"
Wild.
It was totally wild.
Yeah, that happened to me. We were driving to California, and we stopped in Palm Springs for the night because we were all tired. And I just got up. You go to get the ice bucket outside the hallway to get that, and some guy was like random in the car, goes, "Hey, you're Steve Martin from Ripple Trading." I'm like, what? It was weird. It was so weird. Yeah, some
You're
random
used
dude
to
in
it
a
like at
hallway.
NEB or something, right? You go to NEB and like you see people who watch your stuff because you're in that little bubble, that little
Yeah.
little lake in which we're sort of big fish in a tiny little lake. But in general, in public, I had somebody do it at an airport once too. It's really weird.
That is weird. Yeah, I'm not really interested in that happening, I guess, but we'll see.
No, it's not the direction you want to move in. My grandfather
No.
said, "If you want to be rich or famous, I'll take rich any day."
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to see if
So
I'm in or better. No, go ahead,
so
Steve.
in terms of all your accomplishments, Jen, I mean, and I think what you've done is pretty amazing. You've a small company, you bootstrapped it. You've got 6 employees. You're running 2 YouTube channels. I mean, how do you balance? And this is a question I think we all have to wrestle with. How do you balance kind of like your intense workspace with your work life, with your personal life? How do you create your spaces so that your work doesn't become everything? I know you have to
Uh,
contend with that.
I wish I had the answer to that. I mean, I think I've become better since we're back. So we were, working from home obviously during the pandemic, and that was it was an awesome time. I feel like it was almost like being in an incubator. I pretty much started an online business during that time period. I got my JennJager.com website up and running. I started making online courses that people could purchase. I started making, this is back when I still had one channel. I would be cutting 2 videos a week because I had nothing else to do. All of our clients were, nobody was hiring us to do video. So at that time when my office was in the home, it was really hard to find a balance because you couldn't do anything. And what else, I just felt like I needed to be productive all the time. I would say I've become much, much better at leaving things on a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, if I can. And I really, think that having a separate space from your living space can be helpful in that regard. But it's still a work in progress. Like for me, the burnout is definitely, it gets very real. I get very sick of looking at myself and listening to myself talk. Like sometimes I get so sick of myself. So I get excited to take on client projects. I get to kind of pick and choose what's coming in the door that I'm going to take over. Most of our staff handles most of the client work at this point. And I've been doing a lot of YouTube. But yeah, I wish I had real pearls of wisdom, except for I would say separating your spaces is huge. That's for me has been the biggest thing.
Well, that's what I did. If you look, my space that I'm in right now is really my basement. So I set it up as a YouTube studio. Is Mark still there? Maybe he can cut to.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Just cut to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. So I set up the studio. It's down here where I'm down below. I actually refer to myself as basement boy because I am basement boy. So I'm in the basement, but I go upstairs. And so I'm up there. So there is a separation between, my workspace and, everything else I do. It's really nice. In fact, I spend, I think way too much time down here, but it is nice to actually walk upstairs and say, okay, that's down there. My life is up here.
Yeah. Just shut the door and just shut off that part of your brain if you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm still running behind here. I don't think it starts to catch up unless I actually put it on the screen. So it suddenly gets really, really fast and seems to pick up. We'll have to ask Doc about this.
I think honestly, I think it's related to your iPhone. That's what I think. Because we're both, I do. I just that software and something with your iPhone. Is your iPhone I don't know. You said it's hardwired, but man, there's so many things when you do a live stream that are so many T's to cross, so many I's to dot, and your head's doing that weird thing. I wish we had some music. I wish some music to go with that right now. That would be some awesome.
So I think it is related to. I use Camo Studio Pro before Continuity came out. I was using Camo Studio Pro, which allows you to hook up your iPhone and use it as a webcam. And I think we're back in.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, what
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah,
You are.
because what I did,
happened?
well, I brought up Camo Studio Pro and I opened the full window up because they had an update recently, and you used to be able to minimize it and it would be fine. You can't minimize it anymore, but I just keep it off to the corner. But I closed the actual window that shows the screen, and I brought that back up, so I think it's okay now.
Yeah, it looks fine.
I think I got that solved.
I just want to see your head. Looks like it's about ready to explode.
I know. Hey, Jonathan Kersh says for music, let me just spread his thing out a little bit here. Just make sure you make you're covered by the license. This is a really good point because the music license can really vary quite a bit. He mentions YouTubers is less expensive, but then you can't use it for broadcasting or cable casting. So very, very good point about music. And while we're talking here, if I find I'll look for a couple of our little tips about editing music in Final Cut because we've published quite a few tips on that subject.
Yeah. So that's great. So, in terms of all your accomplishments, Jen, what is like the most thing you're most proud of? Like, what is that of all your?
I don't know. I mean, I have like chronic imposter syndrome, so I never feel like anything is good enough. I think, and it kind of depends on the day. I think right now I feel really good about the production company. You know, when I think back to like me lugging the gear around by myself and trying to convince people to pay me real money to make their videos and to where I've come now and the clients that we have. I feel really good about it. I feel very, very good about it. Sometimes I feel really proud of the YouTube stuff. It sort of depends on, you know, how the channels are doing, how the last video performed. Yeah, but I feel good, but I'm always hungry for the next thing. You know, what's going to be next? We'll see.
That's great. Yeah. So you're going to NAB the first time this year.
Mm-hmm. I have been, but it's been ages, and I've never gone as a business owner and a YouTuber. So I feel like it's going to be a very new experience. I did have a broadcasting job where I went with like a supervisor many, many years ago.
Yeah, so it's a question for all you out there in the interwebs. If you guys are going to NAB, let us know. This is the first year that Mark and I aren't going to NAB. I've been doing it for 20 years, and I just feel like okay, it's just time to you know pass the mantle on to somebody else. And I go there because of the networking. I want to see people. You'd be there. That'd be cool. And get together with people that you normally wouldn't see through the rest of the year. People from around the world are there. So it's a great experience, and glad you're going. And yeah, it's fun to walk around. It's kind of overwhelming because you'll walk into some booths like Sony or Avid or whatever, and they're like small cities. That's how big they are.
Yeah.
And it's fun. So I don't know, maybe I'll go there next year, what have you. But yeah, NAB is a big part of Mark and I, we met at NAB where we both,
2005.
2005, where Apple hired us both to actually teach. When Apple was there, they had a booth, and we'd be up in front of hundreds of people teaching Final Cut 7, Motion 3 or 2 or whatever. Maybe it was the first version of Motion, and we'd have people in classroom in front of us with like hundreds of people around. So that's how Mark and I met at the Apple booth when Apple was still doing at NAB.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm kind of sad we're not going this year.
It's not too late. You can still book it.
That's true. By the way, I just posted 4 links to 4 different tutorials, free tutorials we've done about using music in Final Cut Pro. That's editing watermark music, creative cutting to music, publishing music to Final Cut Pro, magnetic music editing. So if you guys should check all those out because some of them are short, 60-second things. Some of them are a little longer, but there's a bunch of tips in there on how you can more effectively and efficiently work with music.
Awesome.
In Final Cut Pro.
Yep. All right. Well, we're almost at the top of the hour here, Mark, and Jen's got to go chase down some new clients, and she's got more. Well,
she's got to unpack the new FX6.
She's the FX6. They probably already have it unpacked, and they're probably already shooting with it right now, Jen.
Not yet. I don't think it's arrived yet, but I'm waiting.
Okay. It's late there. It's like 4:00 in the afternoon there.
Yeah.
Better get it soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably before. I think it said before 6. So we'll see.
Well, I want to be the first to say I'm super excited that you could take time to be on our show, and you're part of our community, and love the work that you've done with your motion work, your Final Cut. It's just exciting. Like you said, we're part of this community that we're trying to build. And so thank you for coming on our show. Thank you for being here.
I want to thank you for having me. I'm so grateful. I bow to the masters. You guys are amazing. You teach me new stuff all the time. And I was really excited to be talking with you guys today. So thank you.
Awesome. This was really fun. So we'll have you back. And in the meantime, I'm sure we'll be talking online. And have a great time at NAB.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Have fun.
If anyone sees me and recognizes me at NAB, try to be calm. I'm just kidding. You could be my first person to recognize me in real life.
Awesome. Hey, stick around, Jen. I'm going to cut your camera off, but after we wrap, we'll check in with you. Stick around for a sec, okay?
Thank you.
That was awesome, Steve. That was great. That was a good idea.
We're not live anymore?
I haven't stopped.
Oh yeah, this is like yet. Alex Lindsay's post show.
Oh yeah. No, I wasn't really doing that. I just sort of want to end where we started, where we're just saying we wanted to thank everybody for watching the show today. If you guys have ideas of other people you want us to interview, to have on the show, other creators that are using this same tools, please let us know. We've got a long list of people right now that we are excited about. We've got great stuff in the pipeline, so please stay tuned for the next one of these, and make sure to subscribe to our website if you haven't yet to get notified about all this.
100K.
Yeah. We're also, you could be it'd be nice if somehow you could know who was number 100,000, because we could offer a prize or something.
Yeah.
That was really great. That was great. Jen's got a new subscriber here. Great. All right, you guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching, and we will see you soon. All right, take care. And now I'm gonna hit finish and end broadcast. See ya.